Hey, welcome to Earth Sky, our live stream, our weekly live stream. I'm your host, David Dalian, and this week we're taking a look at Saturn and its disappearing rings. At least for now, it's the ringed world. We'll see. Joining me today is our own Marcy Curran, and Marcy is an editor here at Earth Sky, part of the team that puts together our our night sky guide, which is out every night of the week, I believe, most nights. Anyway, producer of our outstanding astronomy observing videos. If you want to go outside and see what's up, she's the lady to look for, and she's an astronomy educator. Also today, we're going to be talking with Pran Hyseni, who is currently a doctoral student at the University of California, Santa Cruz, where she's studying planetary science. The road there was a bit winding for her from war-torn Kosovo in the 1990s, and we're going to talk to her about that. Hi, Marcy. How are you?
Hi, Dave. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What are we going to talk about today from your end of things?
We're going to talk about seeing Saturn in the night sky.
Seeing Saturn in the night sky. Okay. Well, we've got Saturn here. So there's Saturn. Let's what's this? Tell us about this. Are we seeing it? Oh, we're seeing it now. There we go. Whoops.
All right. This is Saturn in September's evening sky. And you'll notice there's really not another bright star near it right now. And so basically, if you look at the eastern sky at sunset, after sunset, the bright star you'll see is Saturn. It's going to be highest in the sky around midnight, and then it'll be low in the western sky in the morning at opposite the sunrise.
Opposite the sunrise.
And the closest thing you might see to it is from the northern hemisphere. The Great Square of Pegasus is going to be higher in the sky, and from the southern hemisphere, Saturn's going to be higher than the Great Square of Pegasus.
Okay, so it's inverted. If you're south of the equator, it's inverted.
Right.
Okay.
Really nothing bright around it, so you're gonna, if you just see something bright by itself in that area of the sky, it's going to be Saturn.
That's going to be Saturn. So put your back to the sunset, take a look to the east, and the bright thing you see on the horizon, that's going to be Saturn. Well, what if you're not sure you found it? How can we find it more easily than that?
One sure tip on whether it's a planet or a star is a star tends to twinkle and a planet has a real steady light. And Saturn's kind of a creamy color, light yellow or golden color.
Mm-hmm.
And it's moderately bright. It's going to be brighter than most stars, not all stars. So it is fairly bright. So it is kind of easy to pick out in the sky.
It sure should be. Okay, what happens next? What happens next in Saturn in September?
Well, of course, coming this week on the 8th is when Earth flies between Earth and Saturn. So it's going to be basically its brightest for the entire month of September. And we've got some dates coming up where the moon will be nearby, and that's going to make it easier to find in the night sky. So we have a slide actually for the 15th and 16th, and you're going to see the almost full moon closing in on Saturn. And like I said, it's going to be really easy to spot when the moon is nearby. And then later that night, basically the early morning of the 17th, which is not going to be on this chart here, some places in North America and Australia are going to see the moon cross in front of Saturn and just kind of cut it off for a while. The astronomers that call that a lunar occultation.
A lunar occultation.
And this is interesting.
Greek for, I'm sorry, go ahead. That's Greek from hidden.
Right. Yeah, it just basically crosses in front of it and you can't see it for a while. This is kind of interesting because we're having 12 lunar occultations of Saturn in a row. They started in April, and the very last one is going to be overnight, the last night of January 2025.
So do I need binoculars to see that? Do I need a telescope?
A telescope is better because the contrast brightness is going to be so dramatic. If you are looking at Saturn, if you want to see the rings, you've got to basically have at least 50 power on a telescope.
Okay.
I have seen the rings clearly through like a little 50 millimeter, 60 millimeter refractor before to distinctly see them. And this chart also shows you that even at 50 power, you might see a bright star near it. And that star is actually going to be its largest moon, Titan.
Titan.
Right,
Titan.
right.
Okay.
Getting
All
back
right.
to the occultation itself, some places we'll see Saturn just kind of skimming the limb or the very edge of the moon. And then, of course, to observe Saturn, if you want to see the rings, you need at least 50 power blown up on your telescope. And to start seeing more detail, like darkish kind of bands, it's not dynamic or real obvious like you see on Jupiter.
Right.
On Saturn, you can kind of see subtle banding, and you need at least 100 power. And the more power, more you can blow it up. Might see the divisions, the famous divisions, the Cassini or Encke division um, in the rings of Saturn. And they say that looking through a telescope at Saturn is kind of an oh wow moment because it's just so incredible to see. And just to see that little kind of oval disc, it's not really oval, but it's kind of squashed, oblate. And you see those rings, and it's really an impressive sight through a telescope.
It is, especially when you can see its ears, when you can
Yes,
see the holes through its rings, and you can tell that's a real three-dimensional object
it,
flying around out in space.
it
And that
is. 10 power binoculars will even show it as kind of an oval
it
object.
will. It
Can't see
will.
the rings, but you can distinctly see it's oval. And that's kind of interesting you brought that up because Galileo, who's the first person that used the telescope on the sky that we know of, he actually kind of noted that Saturn was either a three-star, blob or something, or a three-star planet, or it had ears. He kind of
Right.
called it a planet with ears because he could see the two distinct little things by it.
Yeah, those earliest sketches from Galileo show those ears very prominently.
Yes.
Okay, well, what else is going on with Saturn this month?
Well, after the moon visits it on the 15th and 16th, we've got on the 17th, it's going to be near the super harvest moon. And of course, this is the second of our full super moons in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have a really pretty sight that night, that gorgeous big bright moon rising, and Saturn's going to be shining brightly nearby. So that would be something definitely to get out and look for.
So, what is a supermoon? What makes the moon super this month and
This
last month?
the supermoon, they classify the supermoon as something that's within about 90% closer than the average distance between the Earth and the moon. And so we do have usually 3 to 5 supermoons a year. And this will be the second of 4 in a row. And next month we'll have the closest supermoon.
Right. They don't
And
usually come month after month like that, do they?
usually they do in a sequence
Really?
like that.
Oh, okay.
I did not actually realize that till recently, but that is kind of interesting.
Well, I was this many days old when I learned that. So there you go. All
And
right.
of course, on supermoons, as we mentioned, in our live stream a couple weeks ago, that they don't necessarily look bigger to the eye, but they sure do look brighter. So they're always worth getting out there to see.
Yeah, if you folks want to check out our supermoon video, you can find that in the links below or actually at EarthSky at our earthsky.org webpage, or right here on YouTube. It's down there someplace, I promise. Okay, Marcy, I wanted to ask you, there are other visible planets up in the night sky this month. When will the moon be visiting those? Do we have that
You
off
bet.
the top of our head?
We've got something special on tap this week, as a matter of fact. If
Oh,
you'll go out and look right after sunset to the western horizon, on the 4th and 5th, look for the moon near Venus. Now, on the
okay.
4th, the moon is only roughly 2 days old, so it's going to be a sliver, just a slender little crescent moon. So you might spot Venus before you spot the moon.
Wow.
But look
That is
about 30
special.
minutes after sunset, and sometimes, just use binoculars to glance around the area, make sure that sun is well over the horizon if you're using binoculars. And
Please.
then on the 5th, the moon has moved on slightly, so it's going to be a little more obvious. And again, by the 5th, it's going to be pointing at the little lit side of the crescent moon, will be
Okay.
pointing at Venus.
It'll
So
be pointing right at Venus. Okay. Anything else like that?
yeah, and then moving back to the morning sky, of course, again, we've mentioned that the moon will be by Saturn the 15th, 16th, and 17th. But
Right.
moving back to the morning sky, we're going to have the moon near Jupiter on the 23rd and 24th. And then
Okay.
it's going to be near Mars on the 26th and 27th.
Lots going up there. And Mars and Jupiter are fairly close right now. They were really close not too long ago.
right,
They're
middle of
still
March.
hanging out together.
Yeah, they're moving apart as the month goes on. And
These things happen.
of course, you can check our visible planet night sky guide at earthsky.org, and we do
Right.
charts all the time of where the moon's going to be relative to bright stars and the planets and anything special going on.
All right. And you know what else you can do at Earth Sky? You can buy these cool shirts that we're wearing. Show your shirt, Marcy. There you go.
I'm so short you can't see it on me, but you know.
These are great shirts. Anyway, you can get those in our store. Thanks, Marcy. I appreciate it. We'll
You
talk to you soon,
better. Thank
okay?
you. Okay,
All
thanks.
right. See you
Bye.
soon. Bye. Okay, I'm going to bring in our next guest, which is Pran Hyseni, and she's a graduate student from, oh, come on. Where are you, Pran? Oh, there you are. Sorry.
Hi.
Anyway, hi, how are you?
Great, great. Thank you for having me. It's my first time being here with Earth Sky, and it's one of the first websites I've been following when I started into astronomy a long time ago. So this is very exciting.
This is exciting. This is really exciting for me. I was watching, there's a biography, documentaire français, about you, and it was really an interesting ride to get where you are now. Joining us here in California, you're up north. Pran is up at UC Santa Cruz, but you're from Kosovo, and tell us about how you got involved in astronomy in Kosovo.
So for everyone, my name is Pran Hyseni, and I am originally from Republic of Kosovo, which was part of former Yugoslavia, which a lot of people heard of. Because when I tell people I'm from Kosovo, they think it's in Russia, or not a lot of people have a clue where it is in the map. So I was born there, and in the late 90s, we were entangled in the war conflict with Serbia, unfortunately. I was 4 years old at that time, and I had the chance to experience what's being in a war firsthand because I was part of it, and I got family members that were killed during the war. And it was a very difficult time for 2 years and a half with my family and my siblings hiding in the forest and running around and hiding from the genocide. And if it was not for the United States and for European countries and for NATO to come in together and intervene and stop the genocide, I would have probably not be alive today speaking. But yeah, that was a long time ago, about 25 years ago. And then the war ended. We got our independence in 2008. And, we are slowly building our country together. But for me, it was during the war time when I had the chance to witness a solar eclipse for the first time. I was very young, and during the time, there was not like internet, or not a lot of people had TVs. We did not have a TV. I remember that. Maybe a neighbor or so had a TV, and then the news was like, there is going to be a solar eclipse. But because the level of education that people had, they did not understand exactly what a solar eclipse is. So it kind of created some sort of panic in people that something bad was going to happen and the end of the world and all that. However, my grandfather at the time, who was still alive, he was explaining to us that a solar eclipse is a normal phenomenon. It's just the moon passing in front of the sun. And of course, he did not have, telescopes or solar glasses to show us this phenomenon, but he took a bucket and filled it with water, and we placed it indoors so that we could see the reflection of the eclipse in that, so the wind was not, vibrating the water in the bucket. So that was one of my first experiences. And to a 4-year-old, like, you start thinking, like, this is weird. Like, something is out there beyond the blue sky that we don't know of, all these planets, all these movements. And as a young kid, it made me very curious, and I started very much liking that. So I was raised and still live there until I moved to California in a farm in Kosovo, in the country. And right after the war, the cities were destroyed. So there was like no light pollution. So I grew up my entire life with access to the night sky, and just having that every evening you walk out of your door, just having this connection with the sky, it built even stronger over time, and it all affected me to a point where I started really loving astronomy. Also, another inspiration was my older sister. So I have had six other siblings, one brother and four sisters. And this one, we used to go to school together. We were closer in age. And she loved math. She loved, astronomy. And she taught me how to measure the time with the shadow of the sun, and how the planets are, the names of the planets from the distance of the sun. And unfortunately I lost her in 2009 in a very bad fire accident, but she was an inspiration to me why I started in astronomy. So what I'm doing today, accomplishing a PhD in planetary science, I feel like I'm dedicating this to her. I'm doing it for both of us.
That's a beautiful story. That's a beautiful story, Pran. So, what exactly do you study? What do you do every day? Tell us about a
Yeah.
day at UC Santa Cruz or wherever you are, because I don't imagine you're stuck there.
Yeah, I actually reside in San Jose. Santa Cruz is over the hill. I'm not on campus, but it's a great campus, and I'm very lucky to be here. I applied here in 2020. I got my master's degree in planetary science, and then I continued into my PhD. Right now, I'm on the third year, and I work with Dr. Miriam Tellis, and also with Dr. Andy Rifkin, who is from John Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory. And the reason I have also Andy on board from a different university as a mentor is because my research focuses in understanding and investigating the hydrated asteroids through spectroscopy. So we're looking at C types, which have, carbonaceous asteroids that are mostly concentrated in the middle and outer main belt. And also we have a lot of hydrated objects, beyond that, like in Jupiter's orbit, and also Centaurs and Trans-Neptunians. And these are some really interesting objects because they have not experienced a lot of heating, but they also are very preserved. And a lot of them show signatures of hydrated minerals, which tells us that at some point in time, all these objects had liquid water running in their interior, or, all around. So we're trying to understand this process of water, like how did the aqueous alteration affect the redistribution of especially organic material inside these bodies. And also, just recently I got a major project approved from NASA IRTF facility in Hawaii, where I have a few nights allocated that I will be using to look at particular families of asteroids, like study the parent body and then study the members, and see if there is any differences in the composition when it comes to specific hydrated minerals or organics, because it would be interesting to see that difference and then try to understand what could have affected that. And then we try to constrain how could the life have been processed, the origin of life to have to come to the point that it looks like this. So it's kind of like putting a murder case together, like puzzles. Like you're looking at this and this and that, and you're putting it all together to form a history of life of an asteroid. And to me, that is very exciting because I love working with small minor planets. I just feel like nobody cares about them. Everybody cares about Saturn and planets and the moons, but asteroids, they're tiny and they don't get studied enough. So it's fun to do that.
That is fun to do that. But you know what? You haven't always been a pro. You started out as just another amateur observer, didn't you? And you did some interesting work in Kosovo when you found there just wasn't a lot of information there, was there? There weren't a lot of resources post-war. What did you do about that?
That's absolutely true. What I'm doing here is very recent. I'm still learning. I'm still in the process of all that. But yeah, in Kosovo, when I started I started as a kid, liking and being amazed with, stars and planets. And but once I grew up a little older, to the point I started school, I realized I was born in a place where astronomy does not even exist. Like, we don't have universities that provide a degree. We don't have observatories. We didn't have astronomers. We didn't have telescopes, like absolutely nothing. And probably in a physics books, you would find like 2, 3 pages that would mention a little bit of solar system, and it was very brief, and it was very difficult. And for me, as I was growing up and I was deciding what I'm going to be in the future, what am I going to be studying at college, it was very difficult to make that choice, because it's not something, I wanted to study something that we didn't have. And at that point, for me to leave the country and go elsewhere to pursue my career, it just seemed like an impossible step. And even my parents, they are, the most supportive parents. But at that time, they were concerned, because they were like, you are just going to end up jobless, or who knows if you pursue astronomy. But I started using social media when internet became very popular in Kosovo, which was late in 2010 or so. We got a home desktop computer, and Facebook became popular. And then I started connecting with various astronomers, amateur astronomers all across the world, Australia, United States, Europe. And they were saying that I'm interested in astronomy, but they also knew of Kosovo history and all that. So one of these astronomers one day told me that he was gonna send me a telescope. And I did not believe him, because I did not know the person. It was just through Facebook, and I had met him like a month, who knows. And then he actually sent me a 3-inch reflector, a telescope that you would not be able to find anywhere in Kosovo. And I was so happy. This was 2012 or 11. I was in high school, and I was extremely excited. To me, it meant like, this is Hubble Space Telescope, and I could see everything. I remember pointing it at the moon for the first time.
Oh,
I can't describe the feeling. I know everybody has had this feeling when they look first time through the telescope, and then of course
what it feels like.
Saturn, and everything. And then I was showing my family members, my neighborhood, and then I took it several times at my school, because I also had a tiny solar filter. And by seeing how people were amazed with the look through the telescope, it made me start this series of events where I was going into the public, I was going into schools, different schools, and just kind of sharing this with other people, to the point where I was posting a lot of these pictures online of huge lines of people waiting to look in this tiny telescope. And when international astronomers saw that, they wanted to help, they wanted to support. And everybody from all over the world kept sending me equipment, different telescopes and mounts, especially Stephen Ramsden from the Charlie Bates Solar Astronomy Project that you mentioned in the beginning. We ran his program in Kosovo. They sent me, like, within a year, I had like 11 telescopes and different wavelengths for solar telescopes. And we were looking at the sun, and it was incredible having access to something that we never had. And then when I had all this asset, I was like, this is the
What do you
great
do with
time
it
to.
all?
I
You say
know
that
it.
for one person.
My dad was driving me around with a trunk full all of this, and it's really amazing how supportive my family was. And then I decided to fund the astronomy outreach of Kosovo in 2015, after realizing that I needed to have more people on board. And the moment I founded this, we had another solar eclipse, fortunately, at that time, right at the first month. It was in February 2015. It was a partial eclipse, but I put all these solar equipment that we had, because back in 1999, we were looking at the solar eclipse through a bucket with water. So this time I wanted to change the course. So we went in the Pristina, capital of Kosovo, in downtown, where it's the most frequented square. We placed the telescopes, and about over 1,000 people showed up. And we were giving away free solar glasses. We were having 3 different solar telescopes in 3 different wavelengths. We were explaining what this is. It was incredible. And ever since then, I've met so many people. I've had students and professors and people that are enthusiastic about doing this. And we've come together, and we're now about 300 members that we operate. And we have been doing events all over Kosovo, because Kosovo is a small country. It's easy to cover the entire map, going from cities to rural areas, and even in the neighboring countries, Albania and Macedonia, which they also don't have a lot going with astronomy. So it's been amazing doing all this in Kosovo. And then at the same time, keeping up with other things, because I started getting invitations to travel all over the world to give
I
talks.
see your map behind you there.
Yeah, actually, I pin everything where I travel, so I still have a lot to go. But it's been great, because coming here to United States particularly helped me meet with so many astronomers. I went to star parties. I was invited to speak at universities. I remember coming to the United States for the first time. So now imagine coming from a country where the largest telescope, it's an 8-inch Newtonian. And then you come to Texas Star Party, where you have 3 football fields across, filled with huge telescopes. And I'm not talking about 8 inches, I'm talking about 20-inch Dobsonians and 15 inches and 30 inches. And some of them are so large you have to climb a stair to go and look in the eyepieces. And I was overwhelmed. It was incredible. And then talking to so many people who have the expertise and are so smart in their field, and learning, I was absorbing so much for such a short time. And then this also helped me to make the decision that it's probably a good time to apply for school here instead in Kosovo, because in Kosovo I decided to do a bachelor's undergrad in geography, because I thought maybe if someday I'll study planetary science, I will, at least know my own planet.
It's a good foundation.
It worked out great. I was very lucky to get into UC Santa Cruz. I'm very lucky to work with incredible advisors and scientists and have access to the lab facilities here, but at the same time, helping my country all the way, because working 10 years with Astronomy Outreach of Kosovo, we were doing all these events, but our main goal was, how are we going to change this? What else can we do to change this? And eventually we decided to build the first observatory and planetarium and science center in Kosovo. So we've been planning it and lobbying for it for the last 10 years. And we offered a project to the government of Kosovo in 2018-19, and we said, okay, this is what we want. We want a planetarium and observatory and this and that. We will be providing all the equipment, because we were donated the equipment from worldwide companies, Celestron, Skywatcher USA, Charlie Bates, all of these. And then the government approved that. And they said, we are going to build this for you. It took a few years until it kicked in because of bureaucracy, and government parties kept changing. But eventually in 2022, we actually started the foundation. And then throughout 2023, the building construction was completed. And then this year in 2024, I had the honor of flying to Kosovo in June, 2 months ago, to do the grand opening, which was one of the greatest experiences, watching your team come from nothing in your country, like from having absolutely nothing in astronomy to having an observatory with a C14. And having a planetarium and having something where people can come in and learn about science and read about it and look at things and experience firsthand shows in the planetarium, and kids that had nobody to teach them and had no role models, now they will have a facility where they can come and learn and enjoy themselves. So I feel like my mission was accomplished there. I feel very fulfilled emotionally. I feel very proud, very happy for my team, very thankful to everybody who contributed to the project, including the government of Kosovo, but also all the internationals that donated so many, telescopes and mounts and the sound system, the stuff for the planetarium, like everything. Everybody donated something that helped. And just seeing how people all came together to bring this huge project together was seriously an incredible experience, and I'm thankful to everybody.
This is really a great way to honor the memory of your grandfather and your sister. I'm proud of you. I'm very proud of you, Pran. I'm sure they are too. So what's the future going to hold for you? What's next on the agenda?
So this is again my third year of my PhD. I just started the third year, so I still have 3 more years to go or so. One thing I know for sure is that I don't like to remain in academia to be a professor at the university. I see myself more of a scientist who is always looking for something new. I like working and operating with large observatories. I like having my hands on telescopes and looking at the sky and staying up late and that kind of thing. A lot of people ask me if I will go back to Kosovo after I finish my studies, and that's a legit question because it's my country. I love my country, and I would do anything to lift up my country. However, going to Kosovo with this type of degree, it's that I would not be able to contribute to what I'm pursuing. Kosovo does not have the resources to provide me in this field. So by remaining here and being part of a much larger institution and contributing to the science, I would at the same time help Kosovo and kind of be an ambassador for our country, make connections, and go there as often as I can and collaborate with my team that is there operating in the observatory. And this way, I think it would be best. So I haven't still decided who I'm going to work for because I don't know that. It's going to take time to apply and who knows. But I love Northern California very much. And this is the first place I've lived since I came to the United States. NASA Ames Research Center is just about 20 minutes from me, and they do incredible work in planetary science. I don't know if I dare to say it's kind of like my dream to work there, but
can do that.
I don't
know. Well, you're living your dream. It's amazing. You have an astounding story, and I really am glad you came and shared it with us today. And we're going to wrap it up now, folks. This has been a wonderful stream with Pran, learning about her. The one thing we didn't talk about is Saturn's disappearing rings. We forgot to chat about that with Marcy. If you are a regular observer of Saturn and you have access to a telescope, Saturn's rings are right now slowly disappearing, and around about mid-March. Can you tell us about that, Pran? What's going to happen there?
Oh yeah, so around mid-March, we will be seeing the Saturn rings edge on. So it's gonna be like a line across the planet of Saturn. And I was surprised when I was in Kosovo just recently looking through the C14. We were pointing at Saturn, and I was like, I hadn't seen Saturn for a while. And last time I saw it, the ring was very tilted. So this time it was almost edge on. I was like, that looks good, but maybe not as interesting. But no, Saturn is always amazing. I highly recommend that you take the time to look at it either through powerful binoculars or telescopes. But yeah, that's gonna be interesting, and then eventually it's gonna tilt back again. So
right. In fact, you see one side of the rings, and then it tilts, and you see the other side of the rings. So that is actually a very interesting process. And so you should probably go out and start observing Saturn right now, and check in every week. Get your telescope ready, folks. Anyway, so that's it for this week. But this Friday, I'm going to have Alex Young, our own Earth Skies Alex Young. He is a heliophysicist at NASA Goddard, and we're going to be talking about the latest sun news that he'll have for us. And then on Monday, September 9th, at the same time, right here, we're going to have Robert Reeves, who I think you're familiar with.
Yay! He was the person who installed our telescope in the observatory, of course.
Okay. Well, he's got a new book coming out, and our Will from Earth Sky will be the host next week. And so we're going to be looking at A Lunar Love Affair with Robert Reeves. And he is a astrophotographer, astronomy writer, taught astronomy in Texas at the Big Star Party there. And his new book is The Photographic Atlas of the Moon. It's published yesterday, so go get yourself a copy. And hit like, hit subscribe. And Pran, where can people visit you online? Where can people learn more about what you're up to?
I am mostly, I'm on social media pretty much everywhere. Facebook is one of them. If you just type my name, Pran Hyseni, or my LinkedIn, I'm also active there, or my Instagram at pranky.org. Anyway, you will see me if you type my name. But yeah, I keep a lot. My social media is mostly dedicated to public educating, to sharing about science, about my activities. I also share about personal life like everybody else, but mostly it's astronomy and telescopes. So if you love telescopes, you'll see a lot in my profile.
Well, if you want to follow along on Pran's exciting adventure, she's having a great time and doing wonderful things. That's where you do it. Thank you again, Pran. Thank you, everybody who tuned in.
That's my honor. Thanks for having me.
Oh, our honor as well. We'll talk to you next time, folks. Bye-bye.